Now I'll go over the extra problems of Chapter 9. I will skip the first question, which is mainly a direct application. So here mainly what you need to do, you need to apply all of the 5 methods: the payback period, the discounted payback period, internal rate of return, the profitability index, and the net present value for those 3 projects. So here just for parts E and F, as you can see, when the question doesn't specify a method. So when you see if the 3 projects are independent, which project should the company undertake? When you are not asked about any specific method, to be on the safe side, you should choose your decision based on the NPV. If the 3 projects are mutually exclusive, which project should the company undertake? Also here, you should stick with the NPV, because in this case, you may take the risk of ending up with the wrong answer if you rely on the profitability index or on the internal rate of return with mutually exclusive projects. And here with the mutually exclusive projects, you should choose only one project, given that that project has a positive net present value. Because let's say you have 2 projects, both of them have a negative net present value. In this case, you can simply decide not to invest in any project, because you will be losing value whether you invest in A or B. For part E, if the projects are independent, so in this case I have 3 projects, I may choose or I may accept up to 3 projects. I will accept any project with a positive NPV. For part F, I will accept the project with the highest NPV, given that this NPV is greater than 0. Okay, now for question number 2. So we have the following cash flows over a 3 years period. We need to base our decision based on those 5 different criteria. I start with the payback period. So with the payback period, I need to see how much time will it take till I recover my initial investment. So in the first year, I will recover 35,900 from that initial investment of 114,600. So here after the first year, so it's minus 114,600 plus 35,900. I still need to recover $78,700. In the second year, I will be receiving 50,800. So I add that amount. And after the second year, I still need to recover $27,900. As you can see, in the third year, I will be receiving $45,000. This is more than I still need to recover. So in this case, I can say that I need part of the third year. I do not need the full year to recover my initial investment. So in this case, the payback period is equal to 2 years plus a fraction of the third year. So plus $27,900 divided by $45,000. The answer is 2.62 years. So this is 2.62 62. Now for the discounted payback period. So here, for the discounted payback period, I need first to find the present values of those cash flows. So here, for individually, for each cash flow, I need to find its present value. So for the first amount in year one, I say this is FV, N is 1, IY is 10. I compute the present value. The present value for the first amount is 32,636.36. Then for the second cash flow, 50,800, this is FV, N is 2, IY is 10. I compute the present value, 41,983.47. And finally, I find the present value of $45,000 where N is equal to 3. This is 33,809.17. Now I do the same thing as I did with the payback period. Here directly, because always the discounted payback period is greater than the payback period. So already I know that I need more than 2 years. So I will have minus 114,600 plus this 32,000 plus this 41,000. So up till year 2, I will be able to recover the sum of those two amounts. So around $74,000, around that amount is going to be recovered in the first 2 years. So those two the present value of those two cash flows minus the 114,600, this will give me minus 39,980.17. So now in the third year, I will only get 33,809. So this means that the cash flow that I will be receiving in year 3 is not enough to cover my initial investment. So in this case, because the last year where I will be receiving cash flow is year 3, I can say that the discounted payback period is infinity, because I will never recover my initial investment. And here you can see that if my cutoff period, let's say, was 2.75 years, in this case, based on the payback period, I may end up accepting the project. However, with the discounted payback period, I will not accept a project with a negative net present value, because as we're going to see later on, this project has a negative net present value. And this shows from here, because NPV is simply adding all of those present values. So this is the present value, the sum here is the present value of all the future cash flows minus the 114,600. This is going to be a number less than 0. So this is infinity. Now, to compute the internal rate of return, I enter each of those values into my financial calculator. So this is CF0, this is C01, C02, and this is C03. The frequency for each cash flow is 1. I go to NPV, this time I go to IRR directly, and I click on compute. So the internal rate of return is 7.03%. Now, as you can see, the IRR is less than the 10%. So IRR is less than the discount rate. So I should reject the project. The firm should not undertake the project based on the internal rate of return. I will move directly to the NPV, the net present value. So whenever you are asked about the IRR and the NPV, you can keep the same cash flow entries that you have. You go directly to NPV. After you click on NPV, you have to enter the discount rate, which is 10. Enter down arrow. You go again to NPV and you click on compute. The net present value in this case, so this one here, NPV minus 6,171. The NPV is negative, so we should reject the project. The firm should not undertake the project. Now to compute the profitability index. So here mainly you have two ways. If I had already computed the NPV of the project, I can do the following. So I can have NPV. I add back the initial investment, 114,600, and I divide by 114,600. Computing this value will give me a PI of 0.95. The other way to solve, you can use the cash flow function on your financial calculator. This time, you say that CF0 is equal to 0. You enter C01, C02, and C03, and you compute NPV. The NPV that you will be getting, this is the present value of future cash flows. And then you divide the answer that you are getting by the initial investment, 114,600, and you will be getting 0.95. So here, because PI is less than 1, the firm should not undertake the project. Now, problem number 3 is about two mutually exclusive projects. So in this case, you are asked to find the rate at which you would be indifferent between the two projects. So here, whether it's specified or not, whenever you are asked about the rate at which you are indifferent, this means the rate at which NPV of A equals NPV of B. So you should find the crossover rate. So for this type of questions, I always start by computing the incremental cash flow. So I compute CFA minus CFB. So you can start by the project with the biggest initial investment, which is A in this case, and you subtract the cash flows of the project with the lowest initial investment. So here, minus 60,000 minus 50,000. Here I have minus 10,000. Then I have 43,750 minus 42,500. So 1,250. 38,500 minus 35,000. So this is 3,500. Then 32,000 minus 27,500. This is 45. $100. And finally here I have 2,750. So this is the first step. You simply compute the incremental cash flows. After that, I need to find the internal rate of return of those incremental cash flows. So using the cash flow function on my financial calculator, I enter those values. This is CF0, the minus 10,000. Then I enter C01, C02, C03, and C04. I go to IRR and I click on compute. The answer here is 6.99%. So this is the crossover rate, which is the internal rate of return of the incremental cash flows. The last question. So here I have the same projects as in part 3. So those two projects are two mutually exclusive projects. This means I should choose only one project. Now, here the required rate of return is 15% for project A and 12% for project B. Now, most of the time when you are facing 2 or 3 different projects, let's say, the discount rate may be the same for the 2 or the 3 different projects. However, as you can see in this case, I may face such decisions where I need to choose between 2 different projects and where the discount rate used is different across the 2 projects. This simply means that project A is more risky relative to project B, because the higher the risk of the project, the higher the discount rate. So for part A, if the 2 projects are independent, which project should the company undertake and why? So when the projects are independent, I simply compute the NPV for each project alone. NPV for A and NPV for B. So to compute the NPV of A, I enter all of those cash flows into my financial calculator and I use I equals 15 and then I compute the NPV. The NPV for project A is $41,203. For project B, also enter all of those cash flows into my financial calculator. However, now I use I equals 12 and I compute NPV. NPV in this case is $48,133. So if the 2 projects are independent, I should accept A and B. However, when the 2 projects are mutually exclusive, I can choose only one project. So in this case, I will choose project B because it has the highest NPV. Okay, now I'll move on to an additional example. This is when you have a missing cash flow. So let's say we have the following cash flows. So this is the year 01 till year 4, let's say. And here I have the cash flows. Minus 100 in year 0. This is 30. This is 40. Here I have in year 3 a missing cash flow X. And here let's say this is $40. Let's say like here I need to find X. I will take different cases. In the first case, we need to find the X given that the payback period 2.65. So in this case, if the payback period is 2.65, this means that I will recover my initial investment during the 3rd year. And the fraction that I need here is 0.65 or 65% of that 3rd year. So first I need to see how much I will recover over the first 2 years. So in 2 years, I have minus 100 plus 30 plus 40. So I have minus $30. So in year 3, I need to recover that $30. And because here I need only 0.65 of year 3, I can say that the cash flow in year 3 is 30 divided by 0.65. The answer here is $46.15. So over the 3rd year, I will receive $46.15 in cash. $30 of those 46.15 represent 0.65 or 65%. Let's take another example, also with the payback period. Let's say now that the payback period, let's say this time it's more than 3 years. So let's say it's 3.5 years. So in this case, in years 1, 2, and 4, let's see how much I will recover in those years, year 1, year 2, and year 4. Now remember, for year 1, I'm recovering the full $30 of year 1. The same applies for year 2. However, for year 4, I'm recovering an amount that's equal to 0.5 times $40. So plus 0.5 times 40, because if I needed the full cash flow of year 4, the payback period should be 4 years. It should exactly be 4 years. So in this case, minus 100 plus 30 plus 40 plus 20, the answer here is $10. Therefore, X should be equal to 10. Now, in case, let's say the payback period, so this is another case, was exactly 4 years. So in this case, I do the same. I find how much I did recover in years 1, 2, and 4. So here I have minus 100 plus 30 plus 40 plus 40. So here I have plus 10. This will mean that X should be minus $10. Because if I recover all of my money in exactly 4 years, this means that the sum of those cash flows, 30 plus 40 plus X plus 40, they should be equal to the $100. So if you compute X, it will be minus 10. Now I will do the same thing. I will have the same missing cash flow. This time I will find that value of X given a certain value of the net present value. So minus 100, 30, 40, X, and here I have 40. This time we need to find X if the NPV is equal to $25. Now, the NPV that I have, the $25, this is the NPV with X, which is equal to the following. It's equal to minus 100 plus PV, I will call it PV of 1. So this is the present value of the $30, the cash flow in year 1, plus PV of the second cash flow, plus PV of the third cash flow, which is PV of X, plus PV of 4. So this is the NPV with X. Now I compute the net present value without X, because the net present value without X is going to be minus 100 plus PV1 plus PV2 plus PV4. So as you can see, when I compute the NPV without X, I can later on compute PV of X as the difference between the two values. So the present value of X equals NPV with X minus NPV without X. So now how to find NPV without X? I simply enter those values into my financial calculator. CF0 is minus 100, C01 is 30, C02 is $40, C03 I enter this value as 0, and C04 is $40. Let's say here for this problem I have I equals 10%. So I equals 10. I go to NPV and I click on compute. NPV in this case is minus 12.3489. So in this case, PV of X equals 25 minus the net present value without X. NPV without X is minus 12.3489. So minus minus plus. So I have here 37.3489. This is the present value of X. So I'm still not done yet. So now, if this is the present value, I have N is 3 years, 10 is IY. I compute the future value. The future value is $49.71.